my entitled managers take away my vacation time, claiming that there's a new rule in their upcoming handbook that denies me the 4 days that I'm owed. But after doing some research and talking with other coworkers, I realized that they are lying through their teeth. So I decided to get some revenge by suing them and winning my court case, resulting in them getting fired from their jobs, as well as me getting paid thousands of dollars. And I've honestly never felt better about getting back at my managers in my life. Here's what happened. So I worked for a company with great pay and great benefits, and one of those great benefits was all of our vacation days. I worked there for years without performance or attendance issues. I was also an employee who would not work overtime, and I gave 100% while I was there. Each year, I would pre-plan all of my vacation days. We had to put our plans on a calendar for approval, and I wanted to receive my approval before confirming my plans. So I did everything as early as possible. I had no vacation request problems for years and did not hear of other employees having issues with their vacation time or pay. Well, one year, all of a sudden, after using all but 4 of my vacation days, management said I had no additional paid vacation time. I reviewed our online handbook, gathered my requested and approved time off, and checked my pay stubs to verify the paid vacation days that I'd taken thus far. I then presented to management all of my research. My direct manager then said that he checked, and apparently, according to them, I didn't have 4 additional vacation days. Well, that wasn't good enough, so I asked him to forward it to his manager, and his manager said the exact same thing, but I still was not satisfied, and eventually, my concerns reached the center manager. The center manager called me into a meeting, and I again presented my findings, showing that I had 4 unused vacation days left. He then began discussing changes to our vacation policy, all while making eye contact and smiling. He turned his computer around to show me the new handbook that they constructed, which would reflect the new vacation policy. But I thought to myself, wait a minute, there is an online employee handbook, yet I'm supposed to go by a new handbook not known to any of the employees? I mean, this simply does not make any sense. I politely said okay, and then I walked out. I removed my 4 days from my vacation calendar, and it was at that moment that I decided I was going to get some revenge. I then began chatting with other employees just to see the number of days that they had taken for that year, as well as the number of days that they had left. I would ask questions like, how was your vacation? How long did you stay? Are you choosing a different place to spend the rest of your vacation days? Asking questions like these and related questions allowed me to calculate the number of vacation days they used or had remaining in general. And you know what I found? I did not find one other employee having my issue with vacation time. So I waited a couple of months, and then I filed a lawsuit while working there. Other employees did not know about my lawsuit, at least not from me, but I'm sure that management absolutely knew. The lawsuit, especially during the discovery process, revealed an email chain, and the email chain showed the center manager directly asking HR all about my 4 unused vacation days, with human resources confirming in the email that I had 4 unused vacation days that I had available. And get this, the center manager used a fictitious new handbook just to cover up his actions and other management's actions. Also, they could deny my vacation time. So fast forward, and shortly thereafter, we settled the lawsuit, and they had to pay me thousands of dollars for 4 unused vacation days. Now, of course, I had to resign, and the center manager and other management either lost their jobs, they retired, or they quit. Now, here's the thing. All I wanted was my unused paid vacation time, but what I received instead was so much more, and I'm just so glad that I was able to get back at those managers who were clearly trying to steal my time. Wow, that's honestly incredibly disrespectful, and that is so deceitful from the management to pull that kind of move. Here you are just trying to schedule out your year, and these people are like, no, you can't do that anymore because we have a new handbook that sets out. It's like, what are you doing? Why would you lie to an employee just to prevent them from having any kind of time off? Like, for starters, if they have vacation days, why not just let them take it? Like, literally, that's what they're there for, and it's so weird to try to deny that. Why on earth would you lie to your employee like that? That honestly will set up a horrible precedent moving forward for literally anybody who is still working there or anybody who might work there in the future. So you know what? Good for the original poster for getting this done in the way that they did. This company absolutely deserves to have a lawsuit slapped against them because what they did is time theft. And honestly, no one deserves to be treated like that in the slightest. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for telling my mom that she hasn't been my mom since I was 5 years old? Because right now she's acting like I owe her everything, all because she's my mom. But I simply could not disagree more, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. When I was 5 years old, my mother had her second child, who is my sister. We have different dads, and neither was involved when we were kids. My sister was born prematurely, and this is when my mother went from being my mom to being an almost stranger to me. She spent all her time at the hospital with my sister, and I was passed around from friends to family, and even to strangers my mother and I didn't know, because my aunt would hand me over to someone in her husband's family, or a family friend would pass me on to their friend. My sister was in the hospital for months and had many complications from being born so early, so she was one of the youngest premature babies in the hospital's history. When she started to get strong enough to go home, complications due to her stomach were found, and that required more time and more treatments. My mother was in and out of the hospital with her for the next couple of years as they performed surgeries and gave treatments when she would get sick. At that point, even when my mother was home with my sister, she would keep me somewhere else normally, and the times I was home with her, I was left alone, and her focus was always on my sister. Then, when my sister was 2 years old, she was diagnosed with leukemia, and that resulted in more treatments and more hospital visits, and just never ever seeing them. By the time I was 10 years old, my mother was okay leaving me at home while they were at the hospital, so I was all alone. It was also around this time that my teacher started to suggest that I might have dyslexia, and the school reached out to my mother, but she was too focused on my sister to do anything for me. Now, nothing changed after my sister became cancer-free, and she was less sick and needed the hospital less. My mother was so devoted to her that she didn't pay attention to me, and the both of them were basically strangers to me. I started staying with my girlfriend's family as a teenager, and my mom simply didn't care. I would only go to her house when I needed to pick up more of my clothes or more of my stuff, and when I turned 18 years old, I moved out officially and got my dyslexia diagnosis. Fast forward, and now years later, I don't really have anything to do with my mother or my sister. I don't blame my sister for any of this. It's just that no bond could form when we were younger, and she's also just a stranger to me at this point. My mother has started to have some health problems and is now turning to me for help. She told me I should be around more and doing stuff to help her out, simply because she is my mom. She also said that my sister deserves a relationship with me and accused me of punishing my sister for existing. I told her that wasn't true, but we were strangers, and that was because of my mother. I also told her that she hadn't been my mom since I was 5 years old, and she had no right to ask me to care for her, which she hasn't cared for me in almost 20 years. She then called me selfish and a spoiled child who never grew up. So honestly, am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? Honestly, I think with all things considered, I don't think you're the jerk at all. I think the way your mom acted when you were a child, and how she basically pushed you to the wayside, all so she could send all her focus toward your sister, that in my opinion is so uncalled for. Now don't get me wrong, I get that the younger sister had a lot of health problems. Being a premature baby as well as having leukemia as a child is no joke. That is very serious, and any good parent would focus their time in helping that sister. But it really does sound like the mom basically said, okay, I only have one daughter now, and basically pushed the original poster to the side and said, nope, I'm not going to pay attention to you. Because in my mind, I really do believe that she very easily could have paid attention to both kids. She could have been available for both of them, despite the circumstances around the sister. That's just my opinion at least. It really seems like she just did not care about you as a child, and some pretty glaring evidence of that is when you were a teenager and you basically moved out. Like, you're living with your friend and your mom basically could care less. She doesn't care when you come to the house or when you leave. Like, there's just nothing coming from your mom. And that alone to me is proof that the original poster is not making this up. It really sounds like the sister's healthy at this point, and there were no more health complications in their teenage years, so there is no legitimate reason for the mom to still be fixated on this kid, all while neglecting the original poster. So honestly, with all things considered, I don't blame you for the reaction that you had, and honestly, if I was in your shoes, I probably would feel the exact same way. Am I the jerk for only buying my parents stuff that cannot be shared or stolen because my brother and his family constantly take stuff that I buy them? And at this point, I'm getting so frustrated and I simply don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so my brother, who's 32 years old, has been knocking up his wife since they were in high school. Their oldest is now 13, but they have 3 more. She is a stay-at-home mom, and he works as cleaning staff at a camp. It's pretty good money, but they waste a lot of it. They have multiple gaming systems, and the oldest 2 kids have very new iPhones. In contrast, I'm 28 years old, and I live in a loft above my parents' garage. I do not pay rent because my folks want me to save up for my future, but I do help out around the house, and I buy groceries for my parents as well as myself. My brother and his family live in the in-law suite in my parents' basement, and it was supposed to be a rental to get them some extra money for when they retire, but after my brother lost his job because he would not get vaccinated, our parents decided to let them move in. I also love to buy them gifts, but my brother and his family always needed exactly what I happen to give them. For example, I bought my mom a very colorful bag from Colombia called a mochila. It is just a woven cotton shouldered bag made with very vibrantly colored yarn. My niece, who's 9 years old, saw the bag and wanted to use it for a school project, which is when she very promptly and conveniently lost it. Another example is when I bought my father some bourbon, since he loves to have a drink after a long day. Well, my brother and his wife found it and drank it, deciding to mix it with orange juice because it had such a strong taste. So now I do other stuff. I took my mom to go see Anastasia, and I got us really good seats, and I decided that no one else was invited. I also took my dad out for steak dinner, and then we we went to a speakeasy in our city and I treated him to a $160 cocktail. These are things my parents love doing, but they simply won't waste their money. In fact, I keep the groceries that I buy in my loft. I will make meals for my parents and have them over, or I will bring the ingredients and cook with my dad. My brother started asking why I don't leave the groceries in the freezer or the fridge or the pantry that they have access to, as well as why I stopped buying my parents gifts. He says that I'm living there for free and that I should give them more. I asked him how much he was paying them in rent or how he was contributing to the household, and he said that he was tired on the weeks that he was home and that his wife and kids were too busy to help. Now, I work a full-time job, I volunteer at a cat rescue, I do theater as well as sports as a hobby, and I still manage to help out with the yard work, the housework, as well as helping out with errands and my grandmother, who is in a locked-in facility for dementia patients. Even with my very busy schedule, I'm still able to do all of this. I pointed this out and he said that I was being a little jerk, but I responded by saying that I wasn't stupid enough to leave anything around that he or his family could try and steal. So now we're fighting and my parents are upset. His wife called me a jerk for not sharing the treats I buy for my parents, but I can only afford to buy treats for my parents and myself. I can't do that for 5 more people who do not contribute anything. So honestly, am I the jerk in this scenario? What should I do? Honestly, I do not think you're the jerk. I think your brother and your sister-in-law are being very weird, and they basically showed their hand about what they really want. They don't care about you giving gifts to your parents. They just want to get whatever you give them. They literally just want a free handout, and they want more opportunities to steal stuff from your parents. But with all things considered, I think the way you're going about doing this is honestly perfect. You're getting things for your parents that nobody can take away from them. And that's brilliant in this case because your brother and sister-in-law are just being completely unreasonable. So no, of course not. You are definitely not the jerk. They're being incredibly weird, and it's pretty obvious that they have ulterior motives. Am I the jerk for telling my wife that she needs to stop babysitting for this deadbeat friend? Because right now, this supposed friend is literally taking advantage of my wife. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so my wife has a friend that has 3 kids under 6 years old, and this includes a 2-month-old infant. My wife met this woman via social media, and she had posted that she was looking for someone to watch her kids in the afternoon and evening, all while she delivered pizza. She couldn't afford to pay much more than $40 a week, so that's all my wife made to watch her kids up to 25 hours a week. My wife was going to school online at the time, so it worked out. She could do her schooling and make a few dollars on the side. After my wife went back to work, I thought she would cut ties with this lady, but you know what? I was wrong. This friend would ask my wife to babysit on occasion, all in exchange for food stamps because she'd lost her job. Probably a year ago, the friend asked my wife to watch her youngest for a few days so that she could go out of state to pick up her man. This man, by the way, is a gang member who was just released from prison. And at the time, I said no, absolutely not. I worked nights at the time and I knew I would get 0 sleep with a 2-year-old in our house. And this doesn't even mention the fact that we don't sleep in any of the bedrooms. Those go to our stepkids, and we basically sleep in what you would call a living room. This friend keeps popping up needing things. I drove her to the store the day before Thanksgiving to buy stuff, also that she could fix dinner for her kids and her man. She has started to tell my wife she needs a break and asking her to watch her older daughter, who is 3 years old, who also has behavioral issues, doesn't sleep through the night, and is just an all-around nightmare. My wife came to me and said that this friend is going crazy and needs a break, asking if we can watch the kids this weekend, which means we're gonna have to keep her overnight. Now, I protested because we only usually get 1 day a week off together, but she said that I can just go out for the day. But I said to her, look, I don't want to be kicked out of my own house, all because you insist on helping this girl out all the time. But my wife says to me that that won't work because she works through the week and can't watch her overnight. But I said, okay, who cares? If this girl would get a job, she could pay for a babysitter. Now, let me just tell you about this girl. There is a lot more to the story about her, which is why I'm so callous towards her. She is full of drama and she is a terrible mother. Well, my wife and I have argued many times about having this toxic person in our lives, and I'm honestly finally putting my foot down. So am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? No, you are not the jerk in this situation. It sounds like your wife is getting taken advantage of, and for some reason your wife is either oblivious to what's going on, or she's just letting this all happen to her. Now, maybe this is a situation where your wife just doesn't know how to say no to this lady. Maybe she's just a naturally charitable person and she likes helping people out or whatever might be going on. But in my opinion, this is not one of those situations. This isn't a friend who needs help in a time of need. This is someone who's taking advantage of you. Also, she doesn't have to watch her kids as much. Oh, and by the way, she's only paying you $40 a week, which by the way, that's insane. You mean to tell me you're working 25 hours a week taking care of this lady's kids, and she's only coughing up $40? Like, that would have been a deal breaker in my opinion at the get-go. So the fact that your wife agreed to this in the first place is insane to me. It also seems like this friend only comes to your wife because she always says yes. But I guarantee you that if the roles were reversed and your wife asked this friend for any kind of help, she would ghost your wife immediately and never talk to her again. Because from the sounds of it, and based on what the original poster has said, this supposed friend is just someone who takes from anyone around her. She doesn't actually care about this man's wife or anything like that, and honestly, it really shows. So no, you are not the jerk. It sounds like you're the only one speaking reason in this situation, and honestly, if I was in your shoes, I would do the exact same thing. Am I the jerk for telling my parents that it is their job to help out my sister? Because after a lifetime of dealing with her awful attitude, I'm seriously so done hanging out with her and would much rather spend time with my friends without her being around. Here's what happened. Okay, so for starters, my sister and I are not close. She has really bad social skills. She does not have any diagnosis like ADHD or autism, but she has never been good with social stuff. She's very intelligent and she's a very good problem solver, and she lacks the understanding that easy for her is not easy for everyone. She also lacks the social skills to know or even realize that complaining about other things that people are interested in, or their lack of skills or anything like that, is not how you make friends or get people to like you. This has been an issue with her since we were in elementary school, and maybe even preschool. She would win at almost every board game and would ask very bluntly why someone was bad, and that person would normally be me. She'd tell me how easy it was and I should be winning because I'm older. Our parents always bought board games like that, which suited her way more. I really hated playing against her because her attitude after winning wasn't fun or easy to be around, and she was like that with other people too. One time our aunt played with us, and she is a teacher, and my sister basically asked how she could be a teacher, but she couldn't even win a game against a 6-year-old. I never liked having to spend time with my sister, and I hated playing anything with her even more. She always wanted to spend more time with me, but I avoided that as much as I possibly could. Eventually, she started to sit in on me playing video games, and she would try to backseat game, or would criticize me for taking so long to finish a puzzle, or she would literally take the controller out of my hand and do the puzzle for me. She was also like that when I had friends over too. Then she'd get upset when it was clear that we didn't want her around. I tried telling her it was rude to insult people, or to interrupt others and to help without being asked, and to continue when asked to stop. She would tell me it was boring to watch someone struggle, and everyone should be thanking her. Now, there are some things that she is not good at, and boy, her reactions are very strong, like temper tantrum strong. Our parents have banned the game charades because my sister could not play that to save her life, and would then get so mad. She's had friends in the past, but all of them eventually drop her when they grow tired of her complaining about stuff they like. She would basically be indirectly calling them dumb. She's really lonely now because I never hang out with her, she has no friends, and even our cousins don't want to know her. My parents have been on my case about hanging out with my friends and not including my sister, and how I don't ever make time for her anymore. They said I could and should be helping her way more. Well, the other day, I told them that it was their job to help her out and not mine. They said that we're sisters, and yet I act like I don't like her, but the truth is that I don't. I don't know if I've ever liked her really, but I really don't like her now, and I hate every second I spend with her. I didn't tell my parents this, but saying that it was their job to help my sister and not mine really seemed to upset them. So am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? Wow, your sister sounds really annoying. Let me tell you something, I've met people who act like this, and seriously, they are so hard to be around. They make everything a weird competition, and they're always trying to one-up you regardless of if you're just trying to have a good time. And the worst part about it is that there's no reason to act that way. Also, the younger sister's justification for acting like this is just completely misguided as well. Like, you've explained to her that you can't talk to people this way, but she still feels the need to try and correct people, or to basically make fun of them when they're not good at something that she is good at. So in my opinion, I think you're completely in the right. I don't think you're the jerk at all, and I think this really is your parents' problem, because you have definitely tried to be around your sister, but from the sounds of it, she sounds like a nightmare of a person to put up with on a daily basis. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlists at the top of the description. And if you want some chill music to put on in the background, check out easymode.com. If you like Am I the Jerk, subscribe to Am I the Genius. Everything will be linked down below in the description.